I don't think I did it. Maybe when we changed over batons, we probably did it. Back to Windows Update. As you see, there's types of updates. You got important, recommended, optional. I just showed you how to get to it. And is it important? For sure. In an organization, would they go by doing it this way? No. They would have a group of people who's targeted to identify those service packs, put them in a testing environment, be it via a hypervisor or a test system. We actually have a physical test system to test things and to ensure that it doesn't affect functionality on any of the applications we used across the organization. That's first. So we have a different time frame in which we get those things done, which at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that we're being safe about what we're doing. So any questions about Windows updates? I would suggest that you do them if you haven't done them and keep it up to date. Ideally, it's helping you be more prepared digitally for anything that could come out that's on the horizon. Because you got to keep in mind, these updates are they're working on them constantly, just trying to keep improving the actual use of that PC, but also just the effectiveness and safety of the operating system. So you want to keep that going. Patch management. So if you don't need to install a full update, there's options to do certain patches. Patches are what comes out in between updates. It's like danger, danger, alert, alert. We have this patch to fix this issue. You may have had a full big update in January, and the next one should be March, and they skip February. If they notice something that happened in February and they needed to push something out, they can push it out as a form of a patch. And they directly affect an issue that's seen on across the operating system, and is very important that you go ahead and put that on there. So, and as you can see, patches should always be checked on test machines before applying them to production machines. They may occasionally disrupt or affect operations your companies rely on. So because patches aren't as vetted fully, they're just trying to address the issue, is really important that you check it out to ensure that it doesn't affect what you have going with the organization. We always do that. Any questions? If they are, you got to say them out loud because I'm not looking at that chat. Patch management. All right, drivers and firmware updates. I want to talk about this one as a group. So when you think drivers, what comes to mind?
Speakers. I think about
printers. Thank you, TK. Speakers. Any what you're doing. Let me show you what you're doing, Luis and TK. Any hardware device that you are trying to either add to or support with your PC has a driver to help it communicate. That's the relationship. Without the driver, can you let's make it cheesy. Without the driver, can you get from point A to point B? You cannot. So the driver is the liaison between the hardware device or internal hardware piece to the computer software. It's the way that they communicate. And we talked about with the printer, if you don't have a driver there and you just plug it up, it's a possibility when you hit print, you won't understand the language in which it's spitting out because it doesn't have a understanding of how to communicate. So when that webcam stops working, you first look at drivers. Let me see if my driver's right. Because maybe it's there, it wants to work, but it can't because the driver, either the driver had become corrupted or it lost the driver and you need to either roll it back or update it. And this is how you do that. You'll go to device manager on your PC, and you'll look to see if there's a yellow question mark by the item of question. And if it is, then you can come in, right click on it, update driver software, disable driver software, uninstall, or scan for changes. Guess the next question is, why would you disable or uninstall the driver? What are we trying to do here? See what it says. For sure.
Maybe trying to reinstall or fix a problem that you're having with the device.
So good question, good response, both of you, TJ and Mark. I updated that driver to my webcam. Now my webcam is only showing me in black and white, only in sepia. There's something going on here. Now, I don't have a disk, and I don't want to go to the website to address this, but prior to that update, it was working just fine. Just noticed that it was an update available, and I updated it. So if I uninstall or disable that driver and I restarted my computer, because that camera was built into my computer, it has some very foundational information about how to make that work. It's going to try to go through what is already on the system to force it to back working. This happens a lot, and it works a lot. So you'll go right back to that device manager, and you'll see that disabled or uninstalled driver has been installed again, but it won't be the new one. It'll be the one that came with the PC. And voila, you're in color, live in 3D in action, you're ready. That's just things that we've learned in the industry and things that you can do to support the changes that happen as updates come out. They're not always for you. You know what I'm saying? They're just the company that's worked and tried to push an update, and it may not work well with whatever you have going on. And this is a way to address it. So vendors often update drivers, and there could be some positive changes or outcomes or applications that you can use with it. But we talk about the ones that don't work well, and this is how you address it. You can just uninstall it and force it to come back.
Can you just install like an older version of it? That's like, I heard that's like one of the solutions you could do, like install like an older version of it where
so
it was working.
There may be an option to do a rollback, is what you're calling. It's a roll. You're rolling that driver back, and if that option is there, Luis, yes, go for it. But as you see, that's on this particular side, we don't see the option. So you can start there, but if that's not there, you uninstall it, and now it's going to force that hardware device to create that relationship again with built-in information that came along with your computer when you got it. And it's going to work because it worked when you first bought it. So that's the first step. And if that doesn't work, then we can go directly to, if it's a purchase webcam, you can go directly to them to try to find some type of driver. If it's built in, you can then go to the website and start doing some troubleshooting that way. So there's a lot of different ways we can address this. Any questions about drivers? All right. Antivirus and malware updates. They changed it from antivirus because one thing that we dealt with for many years was just viruses. At least that's what they were all kind of housed under that one thing. If it was affecting your computer, it must be a virus. And now we've gotten more intelligent about the ways in which attacks or exploits can happen on your PC, and they can all fall under virus. So it's anything that's bad with the PC, which is malware, is how we will look at it. And that houses all bad things under the PC. So I like how they moved away from virus, because you had spyware, adware, a lot of different things that's not technically in virus. It was just something that was being pushed on your PC to exploit different things. And that's how we'll pursue it. So as it says, Antivirus protects the PCs in two ways. It can work and actively seek and destroy, or it can work in passive mode. One thing about Norton's, McAfee, Kaspersky, AVG, AVASC. Give me another one. I used to use this one called WebRoot Spy Sweeper, and they have a good one. So all of these, the reason they are successful is because they're constantly working on the list of exploits that are happening or changing daily. So that if you turn your computer on and you see your antivirus downloading a new list, it's downloading a new things that could cause any issues with that device or on the network or on that application. It's looking for issues and it's constantly trying to update it. So if once your thing expire, it's not updating. So you're leaving the door open for options for exploits. So you always want to make sure that you keep it up to date and that you're identifying that it's either turned off or whatever the case may be, because you want to make sure that it's updating often. It can update every day if it lets you. And that is a CompTIA question. How often should you update your antivirus? And the answer to that question is whichever option, and the answer stem is the most. It can be daily, weekly, monthly. If it says hourly, you want to go with the lowest option possible, because you don't know when that exploit is there and trying to attack your PC. Any questions about antivirus and malware updates? Maintenance tools. This is kind of like a quick checklist because Kelly talked about backup and system restore. We know that you have the ability to either create that recovery disk or have a copy of a disk if your computer is kind of older because they gave you copies. You can also perform check disks to see if that's a way to address any hard drive errors. And then of course we can do the defrag to help that performance value for that PC. So this is a little quick cheat sheet here. Okay, so now we got some command lines. We got task kill. We talked about this. Somebody shake their head. We talked about this a little bit. Okay, I thought so. So this is kind of going back over some of the things that you can do on the command line. So I want to say this because I need to make sure it's known. Command line is basically terminal. It's basically running a computer using keywords as opposed to the graphical user interface or GUI doing the same thing. So we can go to Task Manager on the GUI and we can see all of these programs that's running and we can right click and stop them. But let's say if your computer is acting silly and it's not allowing us to go to the GUI, we can go into the terminal or the command line and type in task list and see all of the programs that's running, then type task kill and type in the PID of that one that you need to stop it from running, and we can stop it from running right there. So it's just another way. I'm not going to say it. This is another way to do a job because there's more than one way to do the job. Did not use a cat at all with that. It's more than one way. RexEx command authenticates you to a remote PC and lets you run commands. So basically, if you're using a different PC other than the PC that you want to do that defrag on, RexEx would allow you to perform those commands remotely. Task kill, task list, RexEx. Shutdown, which I do know we have a great, what do we call that, Kelly? We have a great test out using shutdown.
Did they
they really put in a great exercise, and
Yeah.
so we
If you
can
haven't done
practice
that
these
one,
things.
if you haven't done it yet, I would implore you to try that one. So shut down, you'll be able to shut down it either right then and there, or you can put a time frame in which you want it to shut down, which is S. And it allows you a particular time in which that computer can get shut down. How many seconds? You can do 100 seconds. So that's actually a minute and 40 seconds. So it's done in seconds. We got boot rec, which would allow you to interact with the MBR to try to fix either the MBR or issues that you're having with your hard drive. So this is, where's the other place that you can do this? You go into where on your PC? Let me see. You go into the control panel. You can go into, you just type in partition, and a lot of this you can actually do from your control panel. It's called disk management. I don't know why that was escaping me. But disk management will allow you to do a lot of these things, but these are just the command line ways to do it. All right, some more commands. MD, which is make directories. RD, remove directories. CD, change those directories. DL or DEL is you can remove files and directories. Copies, make a copy of a file. Xcopy, which is the one we use a lot, is designed to make a copy of the file or all the directories attached to that. So it's more of a robust copying system. Oh, so I just said that. So Xcopy, let me go back. Let me make sure, because I know Robocopy is the one I was speaking of. Extension of a copy with one mode, it designed a copy of the directories as well. So it takes the directories in the file, like I said, but Robocopy actually, okay, it's important because the permissions that come along with the files. That's why that was sticking out to me. So with Robocopy, you have the ability to copy those files, and it will keep the permissions that you have attached to those files as well. Disk part, which is disk partition, short for disk partition. So you can shrink, extend, or format partitions and create them. So that's neat. All things that can be done on the front side, this is this way to do it on the back side. GP update, which will allow you to, as a organization, push out updates across the whole organization if you sit in the admin position. GP results will allow you to see all of the actual policy changes or updates that happen on that PC. You have a copy of this. I already put it in Slack. And Kelly was telling us that system file checker was coming up. So here we go. System info gives details about the system information. We just talked about check this, attempts to repair system errors, scan for bad sectors, recover readable data if they are on bad sectors. System file checker will scan thousands of system files, comparing them to the original versions. And if they find a deleted file or a mismatched file, it replaces with the original file. And we talked about how you can actually make it scan now or scan once, meaning once you restart the computer, it'll start scanning. Scan now forces it to scan actually right now. And DIR is a way to actually view the directory. Kelly, I'm gonna pause right here. Only because
So continuing on with like our administrative tools, things of that nature, and the various ways they call it, computer management, and our Microsoft Management Console. Have various things we can access, like our Windows firewall with advanced security. which essentially helps us protect our systems as much as possible. Does anybody remember exactly what firewalls use in order to help protect our systems? What are the two types of firewalls we have?
Stateful.
Stateful.
And stateless.
Stateless. So stateful does what? What does stateful do?
Checks the flow in the current PC.
Allows contact back through the firewall that was initiated from inside the network.
Yes.
Stateful.
Yes. Stateful is paying attention to the state of the conversation. Once you have initiated that contact with an outside source, it assumes that what is passing through is consensual information. So it allows the flow to happen. If the initiation tries to happen from outside, it will not allow it to happen. The firewall will block that conversation. This is the fastest of the two firewalls because it's basically just paying attention to, you know, who's initiating which part of the conversation. Then we have stateless firewalls, which pays attention to the individual packets that are coming through the firewall themselves and whether or not they should be allowed or not. So based on this, what mechanism does a stateless firewall use to determine whether or not these systems are okay to be contacted? Or
ACL.
ACL, very good. What does that acronym mean?
Control list.
2/3 of the way there.
Mhm.
What's the A stand for?
Access.
Access control lists. They use access control lists in order to determine what is and is not allowed to be contacted within the systems. So very good. This would be a software version of the firewall. There are hardware versions as well, but you have software versions on each individual system. Built-in one for Windows, Windows Defender Firewall. Next, we have Windows Memory Diagnostic. In order to be able to check your computer's memory to see if it is functioning properly, if the system is working well. Then you have Print Management, which would manage your printers, either network or host, and allow you to perform administrative tasks on those printers like erasing the spool and resetting it, pausing printing, canceling printing, things of that nature can all be done from the print management screen. Also, local security policies. Who has access to see what and when? Is this only administrative access? Is it only the user able to access it? Is it the user and their group allowed to see it? Is it everyone allowed to see it? Are they able to see it, read, write, and execute, or just read? So local security policies would be used to establish this. And then you have component services, which is typically utilized by developers and utilizes the component object model or COM components, and is also used by your administrators. All right. System utility programs. A lot of these are fantastic for troubleshooting complex system issues. Going through, you have your performance monitor. Lets you examine how the programs themselves are running and how they, how much memory they're taking up. And it allows for real-time analyzing to see what is eating up the majority of your memory. If it is an unknown program, run a search on that program on the Google if it's something you don't know, and look and see if that is something that is like a system file that you should not shut down, or if it's a rogue program that's just eating up a lot of your memories, because that could be an indicator of a virus on your system. Next, you have your task manager. It's a collection essentially of monitors, allows you to look at performance, your network, various services, and you can use Task Manager in order to start up and or end applications from running. If a application is chewing up a lot of memory, you can come in here and kill that program so that it stops working. Again, make sure it's not a critical system that you're killing, because otherwise you will essentially force a crash that could damage your system. Next, task scheduler, things like defragmenting, virus scans, malware scans, all that kind of stuff can take a lot of time and processing power to actually complete. So we want to schedule those things to occur during non-peak hours. If it is a system where the person works during the day, set it up for evening time, set it up for weekends. If it's a third shift person, set it up to run in the middle of the day when they're typically not there. This allows you to set up those things so you do not interfere with normal operations, but can still have these things done on a regular basis so that you maintain optimal system performance. Next, event viewer. This is where all the logs on the system are kept. A wonderful place for troubleshooting. Also understand that there is nothing that you do on a computer that is not kept in a log. So pretty much anything that you open, enter, manipulate, whatever, event viewer will have a log that will document this. Shared folders. Essentially, it's just an interface where you would have all your folders that are shared over the network and or on the computer to allow for easy view and access. Device manager is where you take care of all of your peripherals. You can update your drivers, all kinds of fun stuff like that. And any peripheral that has been established with this computer should have a file on device manager and allow you to manipulate it, whether it be upgrading drivers, deleting that peripheral off of there so that you can reinstall or what have you. Disk management, it's a built-in partition manager. Hopefully you've gone through and done the test out lab that they have for that one. It's a pretty nice one. Allows you to create partitions, manage them, delete them if you need to, and you don't necessarily need to download any third-party tools to do that as well. And then sysconfig, also known as msconfig or Microsoft config, allows you to edit and troubleshoot the operating system itself and program startup processes and services. So a wonderful suite of tools to be used for the troubleshooting process. Any questions so far with regards to this? All right. Here is a visual representation of Task Manager. If this thing is pegged all the way to the top up here, you've probably got issues. You may have two antiviruses running in the background and they're fighting with each other. That is one of the more common examples of what causes this. And it's just so happens, because average users sit there and be like, you know what, I got one antivirus and they're gonna stop doing so great. Maybe I just download another one, and two working together will be twice as good. And that doesn't work, and the system slows down even further. And they're like, you know what, maybe those are just garbage ones. I'll try downloading a third one. And I'm actually dealing with a system right now that somebody did just that. And it makes the troubleshooting process so slow. It's very difficult to even find the programs that they downloaded because they can't remember the names of them. They're just like, yeah, it was free online. I just downloaded it and started running it. All right. Sysconfig utility. Wonderful for setting up your startup programs. Many applications, when you install them on your system, just want to go ahead and especially if you put in the just auto install, they're like, we know you love our programs. Our programs are the best in the market. So we're going to go ahead and have it start up whenever your computer does. If any of you have ever used Dropbox or things like that, they automatically put themselves in your startup menu. when you install them so that whenever you turn your computer on, it starts booting up all these programs. Well, over time, as you've installed dozens and dozens of applications, this can really slow down your startup process. So if it takes forever for your computer to boot up, this is where you want to go to try to weed out some of those things. You may not want to delete the program altogether because you may use it from time to time, but if you're only using it once a month, it doesn't need to start up every time your computer does. So you can tell your system not to start it up at that point. Go to your start menu, type in msconfig in the search box, should open up the utility in a new window. Go to your startup tab, and you might be shocked at the amount of things you have in your startup menu that is going to fire up every time you start up your computer. Now, uncheck the boxes next to it to stop it from doing that automatic start every time you do your PC. Strip it down to the things that you normally need on a regular basis. Eliminate the things you're not using, very often, like maybe once a month. Like, it's that real big tax program, TurboTax. So you use TurboTax once a year. Do you need that starting up every single time you start up your computer? No. Maybe only again in March. That'd be the only time you really want that sucker starting up. So, I mean, you go through here looking at the programs that are auto starting, see if you can speed up or improve the performance of your machines. This is a great place to start. After you're done selecting the items, click OK. Made any changes, you'll likely be prompted to restart your computer. You don't have to do that immediately, but once you do, the changes you have made will take effect and you might see significant improvement. Here's what that system looks like once you get into it. Off to the side, you can see the fun little startup tabs, little boxes. You can deselect any that are not things you use on a regular basis. If you don't understand or know exactly what the program is, run a search on it before you uncheck it, just to be sure you're not, deselecting critical systems. All right, quick little video here. I'm going to stop this. And Professor Messer.
By far, a scheduled backup is one of the most important maintenance tasks that you can configure on your computer. It's very common to configure these to perform once a day, once a week, and in some cases, once an hour. You need to configure what you'd like to back up. Maybe it's every file that's on your computer, maybe just the files that have been changed, or maybe you'd like to do an entire image of the computer. That way, if you need to completely rebuild this from scratch, you've got an exact duplicate of everything that was on that system. Sometimes you can provide these backups on site, but of course, there are a number of off-site options as well. In Windows, for example, you have OneDrive that's in the cloud that can take all of your documents and not only store them locally on your computer, but also store a copy out in the cloud.